Sorry about my kid. A familiar man holding a girl who bumped into me at the corner. The family restaurant, filled with the pleasant sunlight of a holiday, buzzing with families. Inside, I'm so surprised I could hardly breathe, a stark contrast to the lively atmosphere you'd expect. The noise of what should be a bustling restaurant doesn't reach me, and it feels as if time has stopped. Just moments ago, I was happily dining with my daughter, and now, facing this man, I lose all expression. My face stiffens with shock, and I can't get my voice out properly, though I need to speak. It seems he's in the same state. The person in front of me, holding the girl who bumped into me, blinks and moves his mouth open and closed like a fish. Why is he here? I can't believe the reality in front of me, my hands shaking as I cover my mouth and shake my head slightly from side to side. No. It's a mistake. Just someone who looks like him. He can't possibly be here. Though my mind tries to escape, the reality in front of me repaints all attempts at evasion. Dad? The girl, still unmoved, calls out to her strangely still father. The man called Dad and holding the girl was, in fact, my daughter's husband. I'm Nancy. Married to a college classmate, we were blessed with our only daughter, Olivia. Raising her was hard, but my husband, daughter, and I had a lot of fun together, and Olivia grew up healthy and vibrant. When Olivia got a job, she decided to live on her own, marking a change. Though it was sad to see Olivia, who had always lived with us, move out, I was genuinely happy for her growth. Maybe you and Dad should take some slow travels or start a new hobby, Olivia suggested, encouraging us to enjoy our second life. Since my husband and I had rarely traveled together, planning trips became an exciting topic. We should go with Olivia at least once a year, we'd say, laughing and cherishing the time together. But our happiness didn't last long. Sometime after Olivia started her job, my husband passed away. He complained of feeling unwell, and by the time we went to the hospital, his illness had advanced beyond help. His condition worsened quickly, and he passed away before we could prepare ourselves emotionally. Olivia, though new to her job and busy, came to visit often and was there in his last moments. The funeral went smoothly, and I've been living alone in the house where my husband and Olivia used to live. Time has passed, but I still can't sort out my feelings, often sleeping with family photos. During this time, Olivia took a short break from work to stay with me. She took care of everything around me, making sure I wasn't alone, even chatting with me until I fell asleep. One day, Olivia brought it up. Mom, why don't you live with me? It's a bit small, but I think we can make it work. Olivia. I'm touched. But what about this house? I can't sell it. I see. But if it gets too hard, let me know, okay? This house was bought when I was pregnant with Olivia. There's no mortgage left, but it's filled with memories. I can't let go of this house, but I'm heartened to see Olivia grow into such a thoughtful and caring person. Eventually, Olivia had to return to her apartment for work. I hadn't fully recovered, but I lived quietly. Little by little regaining my daily life thanks to Olivia. Her apartment is a 2-hour drive from our house, but she visits whenever she can, sparing no time. When she can't visit, she always calls, and our conversations, sometimes lasting 30 minutes, support me. In our calls, Olivia talks about work, meals she's had, shopping. And recently, a woman she mentions often. Also, I went shopping with Scarlett again. We found a great cafe afterward. You seem to get along well with Scarlett. Hanging out even on days off from work? Yeah. She's a colleague, but we really click. Oh. I'll bring her over to visit next time. I can sense Olivia's happy face through the phone as she talks excitedly. And there was another person Olivia often mentioned, in addition to Scarlett. That person was Nelson. And I have someone else I want to bring home besides Scarlett," Olivia said shyly, triggering my parental intuition. "Could it be you're seeing someone? How did you know?" "Yes. Actually, I've already been proposed to." I laughed a little at Olivia's surprise. Even though she's grown up, it's always nice to see her show her childlike side. I was surprised to hear about the proposal, but if Olivia chose him, he must be a good person. The following week, after hearing about Nelson over the phone, Olivia and Nelson came to my house to formally introduce him. Nelson brought an assortment of sweets and coffees, a favorite treat of mine and my husband's, as a gift, and smiled. After a brief introduction, I served lunch with dishes Olivia used to enjoy at home. Olivia explained each dish to Nelson, who listened intently and nodded. The dining table, quiet since my husband passed away and Olivia moved to her apartment, was lively once again. After finishing the meal, I served the cake and coffee Nelson brought. Nelson straightened his posture, visibly nervous. As I tensely waited, Nelson began to speak. "I, would like to formally ask for Olivia's hand in, oh, sorry, let me start over." Nelson had forgotten his rehearsed words at this crucial moment. His nervousness lightened the mood a bit, and after some fumbling, he formally asked for my blessing, which I gladly gave. "Olivia can be a bit headstrong, but she's really kind. Please, make each other happy." It seemed he was still a bit nervous. As Nelson held the sore spot, Olivia looked on with a fond smile. Then she turned to me. "Actually, I wanted to postpone getting married. It hasn't been long since Dad passed away," Olivia said apologetically, and Nelson looked at her worriedly. "But Nelson said he wanted to support you together, Mom, and that made me decide. We're ready to do anything we can." "Yes, anything you need." Olivia was going through a really tough time, and Nelson was there for her. Spending just a few hours today, it's clear Nelson is a very sincere man. Losing my husband was devastating, but it was truly wonderful to see Olivia building a new family with such a great person. Afterward, Olivia and Nelson went to file for their marriage license on Valentine's Day. 3 months after getting married, while chatting on the phone with Olivia as usual, I heard Scarlett had given birth while unmarried. The father? If I were a parent, I'd surely want to know, but it was a colleague from Olivia's company I've never met. Thinking it wasn't my place to pry, I chose not to ask. Olivia didn't seem to know much about the father either. Scarlett's parents had passed away early, and now, on maternity leave from her company, she was raising her child alone. Olivia and Nelson often helped with Scarlett's childcare, I was told. This led me to ask Olivia something I'd been curious about. "I'm not trying to rush you, but do you and Nelson think about having kids someday?" "Yeah. But we'd prefer to be in a more stable situation before doing so." "We're saving up," she responded. Hearing Olivia's positive outlook, I decided to respect their pace. Then, in the blink of an eye, 6 months passed. Olivia frequently visits my home these days. Today, too, Olivia came over in the morning, and now we're enjoying ice cream after lunch. "Isn't it a bit much visiting your parents' house so often as newlyweds?" "Not that I mind. Nelson's working on his day off. He's been unexpectedly busy lately," Olivia said, sounding slightly annoyed, which made me smile inwardly, realizing Scarlett's name hadn't come up recently. Upon casual inquiry, Olivia looked a bit sad, mentioning that lately, invitations to hang out or play with the kids were often declined. Well, as children grow, the involvement with new mom friends and outings increases, which might clash with a working mom like Olivia's schedule. With that thought, my nod ended the conversation about Scarlett. 3 years have passed since then, and Nelson seems as busy as ever. Olivia often visits when Nelson works on his holidays. And today is my husband's death anniversary. Since Nelson was working, Olivia and I went to visit the grave together. The cemetery is about 30 minutes from home, usually a solo trip involving several bus transfers. But today, Olivia drove, making the journey much easier. I make it a point to visit the grave at least once a month, so my husband's grave is always well maintained. After paying our respects, we decided to have lunch at a family restaurant. Olivia ordered her favorite pasta, savoring it happily. Sitting by the window, basking in the warm and pleasant sunlight, I thought of my husband and Olivia eating pasta across from me. We've been to this family restaurant before, the three of us. Seated at the same table by chance, we laughed, saying how incredible it was. We enjoyed our meal while reminiscing about my husband, followed by coffee. Since my husband passed, dining out has become a rarity, making today's meal at the family restaurant a special occasion. Noticing more families around. The restaurant bustled with the sounds of small children and their parents, even after the lunch rush. "It's getting busy, so maybe we should head out," I mentioned to Olivia. Before leaving, I stood to grab one last cup of coffee from the self-serve drink station. On the way, I bumped into a little girl at the corner. "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay? Did you hurt yourself?" She must be about 2 or 3 years old. The small girl with her hair tied in 2 buns seemed startled by the collision but wasn't crying or injured. Just as I was about to ask where her mom was, a familiar voice caught my attention. "Alice! It's dangerous to run off like that. Dad!" Looking towards the direction the girl ran, I saw someone who shouldn't be there, kneeling to embrace the small child. "My apologies for my child running. Wait, what?" "Nelson." At first, I thought it was just a striking resemblance, but Nelson's reaction suggested it really was him. Upon seeing me, Nelson's face went deathly pale. "Our child, you mean, not with Olivia, right?" While hugging the innocently frolicking child, Nelson was nothing but flustered and disturbed. I hadn't heard anything about a pregnancy from Olivia, and given our frequent recent meetings, it didn't seem like she had given birth in secret. I tried to stay calm, but my heartbeat accelerated uncontrollably. I wanted to believe it wasn't true. Yet, in this situation, there was nothing else I could believe. "Mom, what's happening? I got worried because you were taking so long." Olivia, having followed us, lost her words upon seeing Nelson. Seeing her husband, supposedly at work, holding a child in a family restaurant, was understandably shocking. I couldn't believe it myself. Being his wife, Olivia probably had even more faith in Nelson. From behind Nelson, a voice calling for Alice made Olivia look up. Seeing the face of the woman who appeared around the corner, Olivia's eyes widened. "Scarlett. Olivia." It seems the one who came to Nelson and Alice from the back was Scarlett, whom Olivia had been close with before. This can't be. I tried to dismiss the one possibility that came to mind. However, the voice of the little girl calling Dad earlier wouldn't leave my head. "What's going on? Explain this." "It's not what you think, Olivia. Let's calm down and talk." "Work. What are you doing here? That child is Scarlett's, isn't it? Why are you together?" With Olivia bombarding him with questions, Nelson was only panicking, while Scarlett remained silent. Perhaps sensing the adult's unusual atmosphere, Alice gradually started to cry. "Let's not talk here, it's not the place. Everyone, please come to my house. Nelson, you're okay with this, right?" Assertively speaking as if leaving no room for objection, Nelson meekly responded. Upon arriving home, I had everyone sit in the living room chairs. Olivia and I sat side by side, with Scarlett and Nelson seated in front of us, and Alice in between. The scene felt utterly surreal. Olivia took out her mobile phone and opened a recording app. We're going to record this conversation. You know what will happen if you lie now and it comes out later, right? She then pressed the button, and the discussion began. I suggested to Alice, hoping to spare her from becoming sad caught between the adults, that we watch TV in the next room. The child was innocent, after all. Being a parent myself, I thought it best not to actively join Olivia's discussion and instead kept an eye on the three from nearby. Why? Scarlett, we were so close. It's terrible to betray me like that. Olivia spoke to Scarlett with sadness in her voice. The Scarlett I knew from Olivia's phone calls was a genuinely nice person, so I still couldn't believe it. But in contrast to the Scarlett Olivia spoke of, she sighed as if annoyed. Being close was all in Olivia's head. I've hated you from the start. I was shocked by her unexpected admission. Why? Did I do something? You stole the project I was aiming for at work, and you went out to eat with people I was close with without me knowing. I've been irritated with everything about you from the beginning. I couldn't understand Scarlett's reasons for hating Olivia. It sounded like jealousy to me, but Scarlett's disdain for Olivia seemed profound. Perhaps there were more reasons for Scarlett's dislike of Olivia than what was just mentioned. Regardless of the circumstances, nothing justifies destroying someone's happiness. Olivia, unable to hide her shock, sounded on the verge of tears. Without reacting to the reasons for being hated, Olivia asked Scarlett another question. When did you two start? About 3 years ago, remember? You said you wanted to introduce your boyfriend to me, and we three went out for a meal. That's when it started. 3 years ago would mean that marriage discussions between Olivia and Nelson were already happening. At the very least, a trust should have been forming between them. From another room, I sharply glared at Nelson, though our eyes didn't meet as he looked down. Ignoring the astonished Olivia, Scarlett continued with a jesting tone. Well, he was somewhat my type, and I thought, if Olivia's going to marry him, maybe I'll snatch him away. Scarlett spoke without a hint of remorse, leaving me utterly astounded. To see Olivia, whom I've cared for deeply, treated this way without a hint of remorse. I clenched my fists in frustration on my lap. I had the urge to join the discussion right away and give them a piece of my mind, but knowing Olivia had more she wanted to hear, I held back. Then, Nelson, who had been silent until now, suddenly leaned forward and began to speak. Olivia, please listen. It was all Scarlett's doing, and it was just for fun. You're the one who really matters to me. Nelson's rapid, panicked explanation seemed to leave Olivia too appalled to respond. I couldn't believe he would say such heartless things in front of Alice, and I looked at Nelson with disdain. Hearing Nelson's words, Scarlett slammed the table with a bang. Startled by the noise, Alice looked anxiously at her parents, prompting me to embrace her without thinking. What? You said we were close to getting a divorce. What was that? A lie! Scarlett screamed hysterically, but Nelson continued to plead with Olivia for forgiveness, ignoring Scarlett and repeating his desire for reconciliation. Nelson, it's over. I can't trust you anymore, nor can I say I love you like I used to. Olivia said clearly, despite her sorrow, while Nelson persisted. It seemed Nelson had also been playing nice with Scarlett. As the argument escalated with Scarlett enraged and Nelson ignoring her to make excuses to Olivia, it became clear no constructive conversation could take place. We decided to adjourn for the day and reconvene later. Olivia decided to stay at my house for a while, and I sent Nelson back with Scarlett and Alice. Olivia, are you okay? I'm still in shock, honestly. I don't want to believe it. But I'll never forgive them. The pain of being betrayed by both her husband and a friend at the same time is unimaginable to me. My impression of Nelson had always been that of a very earnest young man. He was extremely nervous and stumbled over his words during his marriage proposal, a clumsy man who seemed unable to express even half of what he had prepared. Yet, his charm and genuine care for Olivia were evident. That's why I still don't want to believe it, and I'm shocked. But Olivia showed a strong will to fight without succumbing to despair. I decided to support her as much as needed, introducing her to a lawyer I know. Olivia quickly made an appointment with the lawyer to present the recording as evidence. The lawyer outlined a plan to file for divorce and seek compensation, and I was relieved to hear we had a strong case. However, the battle was just beginning. Scarlett, who hurt Olivia with such a one-sided affection, and Nelson, who betrayed Olivia despite being married. I prayed to my late husband's photo, hoping Olivia would find happiness again. During discussions about divorce and compensation, Olivia frequently looked at her mobile phone with a look of disgust. When asked, she revealed that Nelson had been sending messages full of excuses and transparent flattery since our last meeting. For Olivia, the pain and hatred from being betrayed could never be erased, no matter the shared history. Sending such messages when she's trying to move forward is nothing but a nuisance. Why not block him? To my suggestion, Olivia made a bitter face and murmured, "I've been ignoring them, but the messages are getting more aggressive. I'm worried about provoking him if I block him." Olivia showed me her phone screen, displaying part of the one-sided messages Nelson sent. Initially, they were, "I'm truly sorry about today. You might think you're betrayed, but I was just deceived by Scarlett. I want you to believe me. I still love only you, Olivia." Many other messages were sent in succession. The messages continued incessantly. "Why won't you reply? Do you not care about me anymore? Please, I don't want to break up. Let's meet and talk one more time. I won't ever agree to a divorce." I see. Indeed, the pressure in the messages increased as they progressed. The sheer volume of messages, enough to instill fear, raised a simple question: why go to such lengths for Olivia if he was willing to be unfaithful with another woman? As Olivia predicted, continuing to ignore or block Nelson seemed like it would only lead him to come to our house. I immediately called the lawyer and consulted about the messages. The lawyer quickly contacted Nelson, and by the next day, we were reassured it was okay to relax. Nelson had promised to strictly avoid any contact with Olivia. Olivia discussed her situation with a trustworthy superior and decided to take some time off. She chose not to return to her apartment and stay at her parents' home until things settled down. When my husband passed away, Olivia devoted all her time to be by my side. Now, it was my turn to be there for her as much as possible. After the affair came to light, Olivia, who had been too distressed to eat properly, has recently started to eat a bit more. This brought a slight relief to my heart, leaving only the negotiations with Nelson and his party to be handled. A few weeks after the affair was exposed, a meeting with the lawyer took place. Nelson and Scarlett arrived together, confirming my suspicion that they had continued to live together even after the affair was discovered. When I inquired about Alice's absence, they mentioned she was in temporary childcare for the day. Given her young age, it was likely better she wasn't exposed to the tense atmosphere, which could stress her out. We entered the room without further comment, finding it easier for both me and Olivia this way. The meeting was held in a conference room at the lawyer's office. Olivia and I sat next to the lawyer, with Nelson and Scarlett seated across from us. Scarlett kept her head down, silent throughout, while Nelson seemed eager to say something to Olivia. In the tense atmosphere, the lawyer began fact-checking. On the recordings Olivia had played and her statements, presenting the facts to the two. "Is there anything here that differs from the facts?" "No. It's all true," Scarlett admitted with a clarity that was almost refreshing. Her tone suggested she hadn't given up on marrying Nelson. Hearing Scarlett's words, Nelson raised his voice in panic.
No, that's not true. I was deceived by Scarlett. What are you talking about? You've always said you wanted to be with me, not Olivia.
Scarlett countered, her voice not reaching Nelson, who continued his frantic justifications.
At first, when Scarlett was introduced to me, I only thought of her as Olivia's colleague. Then she forcefully came on to me. You've been lying about working and staying at my place all this time after Alice was born. How can you say that?
Scarlett's statement visibly hurt Olivia. Though she had suspected it, the reality that Nelson lied about working to spend time with Scarlett and Alice, enjoying a pseudo-family life, was now confirmed. The timing of Scarlett starting to decline Olivia's invitations matched when Nelson began to claim he had to work on holidays.
Quiet! For all we know, Alice might not even be my child.
Everyone stared at Nelson, stunned by his claim. It was inconceivable. Despite the affair, to deny Alice, such a sweet child, filled me with rising anger.
I said no from the start, but she insisted I stay over, and I had no choice.
As everyone looked at Nelson coldly, Scarlett quietly handed a piece of paper to the lawyer. Nelson, sensing the meaning behind the lawyer's glance back at him, pressed Scarlett.
Hey, what did you just give him? What's that paper? What does it say?
Nelson's voice grew louder in his panic and confusion. I was grateful Alice wasn't present to witness her parents in such a state. Even at her young age, she would sense something was wrong. Scarlett remained silent after handing over the paper, looking down. The lawyer passed the paper to me and Olivia before showing it to Nelson. It was the result of a DNA test. The document listed the subjects, Nelson and Alice, and at the bottom, the outcome. The result conclusively stated that Nelson was indeed Alice's biological father. Olivia and I exchanged glances, both of us coming to the same conclusion. Seeing our reaction, Nelson half forced the paper out of Olivia's hand. As he stared at the paper, Nelson's face gradually turned pale.
What is this? When did this happen?
He crumbled to his knees right there.
After everything came to light that day, I took the liberty of swabbing Nelson's mouth while he slept.
Scarlett, sitting defeatedly, declared her feelings for Nelson were gone. Initially, she approached Nelson out of spite towards Olivia and ended up having his child, but she confessed in a small voice that she had fallen in love with Nelson over time. However, her affection waned as Nelson desperately clung to Olivia after the affair was exposed. Scarlett gave up on marrying Nelson and instead demanded a lump sum for Alice's child support. With the DNA test results in hand, Nelson had no choice but to agree. Nelson's response was so soft it was almost inaudible, and he simply complied with the lawyer's proceedings after that. Nelson also accepted Olivia's demands for divorce and compensation without any resistance. Compensation was also demanded from Scarlett, who knew Nelson was married yet engaged in the affair. Initially reluctant, Scarlett agreed to pay the lump sum after the lawyer explained that resisting and going to court would be overwhelmingly disadvantageous for her. Even after the meeting concluded, Nelson remained seated, making no move to leave. Neither Olivia nor I spoke to him as we left the room. Outside, Olivia and I relaxed, finally feeling a sense of accomplishment. Despite the short duration, these days felt incredibly long. As we stepped outside, the sky was clear as if congratulating us on our endurance. Finally feeling a sense of accomplishment. Olivia. Just as we were soaking in our sense of achievement, Scarlett's voice pulled us back to reality.
What? You still need something?
Olivia responded with evident annoyance, but Scarlett pressed on regardless.
Nelson turned out to be such a person. It's good for us that we could separate, right?
She seemed to place all the blame on Nelson, disregarding her actions towards Olivia and suggesting no issues with her own behavior. "Let's play with Alice again sometime." Scarlett seemed to switch personalities, appearing completely different from the cold figure who had previously antagonized Olivia. Now, she looked like just another friendly colleague. Perhaps Scarlett was angling for a reduction in the compensation, approaching Olivia with a demeanor not fitting someone she disliked. However, knowing Scarlett's true nature, I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. As Scarlett clung to Olivia, refusing to let go, Olivia stepped forward.
"Hey, what position do you think you're speaking from? I'll never forgive you. Don't show your face to me again."
Olivia brushed her off and signaled for us to leave. Stunned, Scarlett watched as Olivia walked away, her hand hanging in the air, lost. Later, rumors spread throughout the company where the three of them worked, quickly making it known to everyone. Nelson and Scarlett, who had returned from maternity leave, found themselves increasingly isolated, and Scarlett eventually left with Alice to an unknown location, as Olivia heard from acquaintances. Nelson tried to regain trust within the company, but as rumors grew, it reached the ears of the management, leading to a subtle push towards his resignation. I think that's a deserved reward. I viewed this as a just outcome for betraying Olivia's sincere love. Despite the gossip, Olivia's boss made arrangements for her to stay, but the office atmosphere became suffocating. Olivia expressed a desire to live at her parents' home for a while, leading to her amicable resignation. On her last day, she returned home with arms full of gifts and bouquets from her colleagues, a testament to her beloved status. Despite the trials of the past months, Olivia remained determined, actively searching for a new job. Someday, she might decide to live on her own again. Until then, I want to spend as much time with Olivia as possible, creating many more memories together.